Hi, in the next stage of the process, we have created a Google form. We've captured the data from lots of different people via the form, and it's downloaded automatically into a Google Sheet. And we've then dropped this Google Sheet into Excel. And it's done a couple of clever things in Excel. It's automatically applied something called a table design. Can you see this table design thing up here, which is called form responses? And there's various different table styles that give you different colour schemes. So if you don't like the colour scheme you get, you can just hover over these different styles until you find one that you like. I'm going to go for something black and white, I think. If you don't like this stripiness, the stripiness is turned on and off by an option called banded rows. I'm going to leave it, I think, in a black and white format. I think it's clear that it's a table and it's still easy to read. The other thing that you might struggle with if you are in the UK is that because Google Sheets are American, they come with the timestamp of an American date. So that is not the 7th of February. That's actually the 2nd of July that was recorded. So I want to be able to format that in a UK date format. Also, I think it would be quite nice to have the date and time as two separate fields, and then later on we can do reporting on various different options with date and time. So I'm going to insert myself a couple of extra columns, and I'm going to use a function called int, which will basically make it a number. So if I start in column B, actually I should be right at the top, make sure I'm on row 2. I'm going to go equals int, and the number that I want is whatever the timestamp is. And because it's got this format as table, instead of putting the value A2 in there, it will put the name of the column. And that's the benefit of it being set up with this table design automatically. So if yours isn't set up with the table design, you can, from your home tab, there is an option, format as table, which will bring you into this view. And then I just need to close my brackets, and you'll see, rather than having to copy it all the way down like normally you would with a formula, because it's got that at timestamp option, it means it knows in every single field in the timestamp column that that's what you wanted to do. And can you see it's extracted out the fact that it's a date and time? It's still backwards, so I'm going to select the apologies to Americans, it's not backwards for you, it's backwards for us in the UK. So I'm going to select column B, and on your home tab there is an option for something called short date, which will just make it number/number/number. If you like to have it with the name of the month, there's something called long date, which shows it then as the 2nd of July. I think that's clear. If you've got departments in the US and departments in the UK, it's obviously much clearer for them than imagining the 7th of the 2nd as the 2nd of the 7th or whatever. So I think I'll leave it in that long date format actually, and I'm just going to rename the column date form completed or something. Now that separated out the date into a separate column, and now I would like to do the same thing with time. So I'm going to go into column C, and I'm going to go equals A2 minus int of A2, and effectively that should split out. The first one was giving you the date and ignoring the time, and this one is ignoring the date and giving you the time. The format still looks really, really weird, so we'll fix that. And I think with the time, there isn't a time option that I particularly like that's preset, because if you choose time from the drop-down list, can you see it gives you hours, minutes and seconds? I don't really want the seconds, and there isn't a custom format that doesn't give you seconds. So I'm going to go into more number formats and custom, and I'm going to create my own. And all I really want is HH:MM. And if I say OK to that, it's just giving me hours and minutes, and it's not giving me the seconds if I go all the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to rename that column, let's say time form completed. And I think that's all I need for the date and time columns. Now, the next thing I want to tackle is the full name column. Now, if we had thought ahead and decided that we wanted the first name and the surname as separate columns, then obviously we could have designed that in the form. But let's assume that for some reason the data has come in one big chunk and you want to be able to split it into separate columns. Now, be careful with this, because last time I inserted the columns for the dates in between the existing data, and the next job I'm going to split these into separate columns. And you might think, oh, you're only going to have a first name and a surname column, but the trouble with this, you might have somebody with more than 2 names. And then potentially, if they've got 3 names or 4 names, you're overwriting data in the department column or the news data column without realising it. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to insert many more columns than I will need, just to be on the safe side. Or what you can ask it to do is extract to the very end of your data where you know you've got no data that potentially you can overwrite, because this time I'm going to use something that isn't actually a function. It's something called text to columns. So if I select the full name column, and on the data tab there's an option called text to columns, and it says, is it delimited or is it fixed width? And if you've ever done importing data into Excel, it basically runs the same wizard. Now, fixed width is if you know how many characters need to go in each column. So let's say you had something that had sort code and account number in the same column, and you go, oh, I know the first 6 are the sort code and then the next 8 are the account number. You could choose fixed width and specify how many characters you wanted in each column. Now, obviously with names, we've no idea how long people's first names and surnames are. So we're going to use an option called delimited. And for that, you need some sort of separator, a space, a colon, a comma, something that tells you which bit of data needs to go into which column. We've got a space, so that's going to work swimmingly. If I choose next, for some reason, it doesn't think it's a space, it picks up tab, it always does this. So I'm just going to deselect tab and say, no, my separator is a space. And as soon as you do that, can you see I've got full name is split into first name and surname automatically. And then I'm going to choose next. And what kind of format do you want for your data? Now, this is really helpful if you are messing with dates, because you know, we had this issue with the American dates going month, day, year, and we want them day, month, year. There's lots of different options for switching your dates about. We want our data to be text actually, but you can leave it set to general and it will assume it's text in this case. Now, you need to be a little bit careful about the destination. If I choose destination, can you see at the moment it's going to put it in D1 here? And the trouble with that is it will overwrite the existing data. So potentially I might end up zapping these names and then not being able to get back to the original data. So I'm just going to say I want it in E1 instead. And then I will keep my original full name column for reference. And then when I choose finish, I can just say, yep, there's data in there, that's fine. And it split my full name, Peter Pepper, Mavis Gruitt, Jenny Jones, etc., all the way down quite neatly. Now, that was very convenient because I didn't have anybody in my data that had 3 names or 4 names or what have you. But if that had happened, those extra names would have spilled harmlessly into these extra columns over here, and you would have to decide what you're going to do with those people individually. Because I don't need them, I'm just going to delete those blank columns that have ended up. Now, if I scoot over this way, I have another issue with my safety helmets. If you were following along when I was doing my safety helmets form, I basically gave them a column heading where they chose whether they wanted 1, 2, 3 or 4 or whatever, which is all very well, but it does cause a problem in my data. It would have been more sensible to have the quantity just having the number in it rather than having the QTY bit. But if your data has got the QTY bit in it, the problem is that Excel now thinks that is text rather than a value, and we need to make sure that the value is extracted out of that column, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to do a similar thing to what we did with the dates. I'm just going to insert a couple of extra columns. And I'm going to go data, text to columns, delimited. What's it delimited by? It's delimited by a space. Now I can already foresee a problem. Can you see the word yellow on its own is going to end up in a separate column? Actually, what that will do is it will zap out all of the data that's in column P. So I'm just going to cancel that for 1 second and give myself one extra column. There we go, just so I don't overwrite this existing data. Forewarned is forearmed. There we go, so delimited by a space. It's going to give me 3 columns, but we'll zap that in a minute. The column, this one is going to be text. This one is going to be a number, actually. I'm going to leave it as general for a moment and we will fix that later. And this column here, actually, we could say do not import column, skip it because it's only really the word yellow. And then I'm just going to make sure that it puts my data in N1. And hopefully you should see the word quantity has appeared in one column and the number has appeared in another column. And if I just go back to my home tab, I can just set that to a number and I'll say I'll have no decimal places, but I know now that I will be able to calculate on this column. And actually I can go through and delete these columns because I don't really need them anymore. And I'll just call this, I don't know, safety helmets yellow. And I would have to go through and do the same process for all of the different colours of my safety helmets. But everything else, I think we'll leave as it is. Yeah, I think everything else will be perfect. So come back on the next video. I'll have fixed the different colours and then we will get to do some pivot tables and pivot charts.